What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Eric of Plague Years. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yep, it's awesome to have you here. The new album is Circle of Darkness, absolutely badass. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this album was in terms of like the songwriting and recording, mixing, all that fun stuff?
Um, yeah. Once we got signed in April, I knew that we had to start writing a record pretty much right after that. So we got signed in April and started writing in May. The music came together pretty quick. I demo a lot of it out at home, and then we get together, and then Mike usually adds his things to it because he's a far better drummer than I am, drum programmer, and the lyrics then kind of come like I don't know, from like the moment that we start writing the music to like the moment we start recording, pretty much like that whole span of time, I'm trying to gain inspiration to write lyrics, and then is recorded by Nick Morris. He's done stuff for like the Black Dollar Murder. He's like right, his studio and where he works out of is right pretty much like a half hour away from me, and we had Arthur Rizek mix and master it. He's done stuff for like Power Trip, Cavalier Conspiracy, Tumult, like pretty much like every band at this point it seems like is going through Arthur because he's just got such a sick style.
Yeah, and you signing with eOne, which I think is awesome to talk about because like eOne has been signing a lot of bands that really like have that heavier aspect with bands like you guys or Enterprise Earth, I Am, Creeping Death. It seems like eOne have been really supportive over both you guys and really just the scene in general, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, like I can't say enough good things about eOne. Like, um, they're the biggest label I've ever been a part of. I've been a part of some other labels, but it was way on a smaller scale. Like I was signed to Lock and Out Records before and stuff, but it was a totally different thing than what we're on now. And in my head, I was thinking, this is such a big label. It was going to be kind of almost ran like a business, in a sense. Like I probably, you know, won't see these guys that much. Like, my manager will talk to them or whatever, but they're actually really personal. Like I can talk to pretty much anybody there at any time, and they'll respond. And they've just been great.
Yeah, got to give a huge shout out to Bill and Steve and Liz and everybody from eOne. Great people, and they
Yeah,
really
for sure, 100%.
and they a very very impressive roster as well for the world of metal.
Yeah, yeah, and they like even when Creeping Death got signed to them, I wasn't even really too hip on everybody that they had. Like I knew they had High on Fire and stuff, and then it seemed like once after they signed Creeping Death, it was like then I started noticing just more and more bands just starting to get looked at by them, and I think it's cool for a label with that kind of reach and plugged in that they're taking bands that aren't even necessarily as big as like the top bands that they have and are willing to try to get take them to that next level.
Yeah, they'll have bands like Avatar or High on Fire or Black Label Society, but then having you guys and Great American Ghost and I Am and like bands that really thrive on like the underground hardcore charm. They have like the best of both worlds. I feel.
Yeah, and it could even help really bust that stuff into the bigger market. I've always felt like not enough people get to hear that kind of music.
Definitely, definitely, and I definitely hope more people hear you guys right now because what I really found interesting, and you brought this up that like getting signed and then having to go right into Circle of Darkness, did maybe like the pressure help influence this album in a way?
Yeah, that was the first time ever in my life that after we had signed and announced, it like really set in for me that like I've always had to write music and be happy with it for myself, which I still do. But like, it was like, man, I really, really need to make sure that this is like good. I don't want to fuck around.
Was
But
there was there at all
but
any sort of like preconceived idea for it though?
well, see, the original plan was we were gonna drop Unholy Infestation. Like, we had actually put it out for a little bit on our own for like a month, and then we took it down and then re-released it. And so in our heads, we were thinking at that time, we would put out this record. It's 6 songs, more than enough for a set, and we were going to tour for the most part. But then once we got signed, I started thinking like, by next year I'd like to have a record out and be touring on that too, and not just this EP. And then it starts setting in like, okay, well now I got to think 4 or 5 months in advance because of promo and and everything that comes with it, and recording process. And that's I realized, like, man, I really got to write this a lot sooner than I was planning, But it worked out, I just like felt inspired and like the pressure to like do it, and it came quick. The music came very quick. I wrote most of the music in like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, just every day going home and just messing around on my computer and just trying to get it all out there.
So it's fair to say that the making of this album was fairly organic, right?
Yeah, like I had a couple ideas for stuff, just from noodling around at home, but once I decided I knew that I had to write a record, it kind of just came very quickly. Like I didn't, normally it might take, a few months to write a couple songs here and there, but this one, it was like every day I was just thinking of ideas, and it just came out.
Yeah, and I've noticed that and this could just be my experience with the album, but I feel like I see elements of death metal, I see elements of hardcore. I mean, there's some elements that are so raw that I almost consider some of it to be like black metal. Is it fair to say that you guys have many inspirations or take inspiration from many different sources?
Yeah, for sure. Like I always like, um, bands that really stand out that are like, they're called, they're a certain genre technically, but they always have different aspects to them that make them, unique. And that's what I wanted to do with this band, especially since like, thrash is coming back for the most part, and I wanted to have us be able to have something identifiable to us that is, different. And so I definitely wanted to add like a death metal aggression. Plus, I just love like death metal type riffs. I just think they're just hard as fuck, and they fit.
Yeah, death metal riffs are like if I feel like for a metalhead, if you can't figure out what to listen to, death metal is like always like the best thing to resort to because every time, whether it's Morbid Angel or Cannibal Corpse or somebody as new as like Skeletal Remains or Creeping Death, it's just always so catchy and always hard hitting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the best way I say is that the death metal is like the dry cleaners; it gets better every time for the same service.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bands that are coming out right now, I mean, it's just crazy.
Definitely. Could this album like almost serve as like in a way like a follow up to Unholy Infestation? Do they have any relationship with each other, or do you almost consider this, with being signed and a brand new start for the band, that Circle of Darkness is almost like a new beginning for Plague Years?
Yeah, Unholy Infestation for the most part is like a concept kind of record lyrically, and with Circle of Darkness, I wanted to have some kind of theme, but I didn't really want to go like concept story again. Like I wanted to be able to write songs about kind of whatever I wanted without feeling like it had to be you know all songs had to be aligned together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So musically, I'd say it kind of advances. Like it kind of Unholy Infestation was like a record for us where it felt like we got to give like 6 songs that are like us, that are bangers, to show like what we are and what we can do. And the LP was more of like, this is one of the things we do when we push outside the box a little bit of just being, fast and heavy. We got like diversity going on. So I
Yeah.
wanted to like kind of transform into like a bigger band like sound, I guess, from Unholy to Circle of Darkness.
Well, yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head because Unholy Infestation being 6 songs and having a concept, you kind of like need to get the point across as like quick as possible. So I think it's fair to say that maybe like Circle of Darkness is almost like maybe, for lack of better words, more liberating. You could say.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to. I just didn't want to feel like I was restricted in any way with it, especially lyrically, because I've always admired vocal because I don't writing lyrics is fairly new to me. So I've always admired vocalists that I feel like can really write about anything, any topic, and it still come off heavy as hell, no matter what they're talking about. Or like a song that can be just about something that's completely irrelevant to the next song. So I really wanted to try to break that habit out of myself and just feel like I could write about anything and somehow make it work.
Yeah, do you think of the theme or a concept sometimes beforehand in order to come up with music, or do you usually have to have a couple riffs laid down before you think of a story or a concept or theme for the lyrics to come into play?
So lately, what I'll do is I'll write the music, and then I either like sometimes I'll have like a theme in my head of what I'm going to write about, but usually what starts it is I like pick patterns in my mind before I even have lyrics. Like the patterns come first. Then I kind of figure out what I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to make the words kind of fit the patterns. So it's
Hmm.
like kind of like some Metallica shit. I know like they do that stuff. A lot of like rappers do that stuff where they hum melodies and then go back and refill them. It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, do you like to leave it open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener into the story of Plague Years?
Um, I like leaving it open for interpretation. I feel like our lyrics, for the most part, are very direct. Like you definitely, if you read them, it's very easy to understand. But I like leaving it like I don't really like explaining too much because I'd rather people just think whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I figure if you put so much thought and like heart into the theme, you kind of want to maybe like the presentation is almost as much part of the art as the music.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely agree with that. But I just like I like giving like people's impression off really not like saying anything, just letting them interpret it the way they do the first time organically type thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Here comes the most difficult question of the whole interview, because you have a song like "Play the Victim" that's just under 4 minutes, but then a song like "Urge to Kill" that's almost 6 minutes. How do you know when a song is finished?
So Urge to Kill, like when I went in to play the victim, in my head I was already like, okay, I'm gonna make this song really short and sweet because I wanted something that was just kind of like a quick little banger, still had a solo in it, and just kind of in and out. And our vocalist is always like, man, I wish we had like a short kind of like song that was just like, in and out. I was like, all right. So I already kind of had that in my head when I was gonna do that song. I'd already like wrote some riffs and Urge to Kill. When I wrote that, I had wrote from the intro up into right before the solo comes in, and that was it. I didn't put the end on until like way later on, and by then I knew that that song was going to be the last song on the record. I wrote a part that would kind of like be a good way to end the record.
Does inspiration or ideas like come out of the blue for this sometimes, or do you like need to be in a certain place at a certain time in order to let the ideas flow through?
Usually, that when I get my best ideas, I feel like it's always in the most like the hardest. Like I won't be able to capitalize on. Like it'll be lots of times when I'm at work or something, and I'll just be like thinking of like a song I was working on, and then I get this riff in my head, and it's like, damn, I really wish I had my guitar on my computer right now, but I gotta remember this till I get home. So a lot of it's just like it really just comes whenever. Like I could be driving in my friend's car and he might play a record I've never heard before, and I'll hear some cool transition, some cool riff I've never heard done a certain way, and be like, man, that was really cool. Like I want to capture that feel, in a song, like the way that riff hit. So it really just comes from anything.
Yeah, I'd imagine inspiration has struck at some of like the most inconvenient times as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I feel like it always does. Like, lots of times I'm recording riffs on my phone, just mouthing them.
Have you ever had to like do that in public?
I've done it before in public, but I usually will like walk away or something.
Okay, you got to do it on like a public bus one day or something like that.
People are like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" But it's funny because I was doing that, and then I've come to find out so many people I know that play guitar do that shit too. I'm like, okay, I'm not that crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Just imagine. I would love to see somebody doing that on the bus, and then just somebody like shout from the other end, "Sick riffs, bro."
Hell yeah, I just give them a nod. I mean, like, respect.
Damn right, damn right. Or try doing that on a plane. People would love you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're trapped. Now, when it comes to playing live, is there anything that like is there any similarity to playing live as there is with songwriting, or is it almost like two separate arts altogether that you kind of have to master?
I mean, performing is definitely different than writing songs for sure because the writing songs part, like I could just for example, not that I do this or anything, but just for example, like I could go a long time without playing guitar, write a record fairly easily in the studio because I can take my time and whatever. But with performing, it's especially playing as fast as we are with the down picking and the tremolo picking and all that. You know, at 200 BPM, like you have to be pretty much trained in endurance to be able to play that for a half hour or however long. So performing is definitely a whole other animal. You got to be trained and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. I'd imagine that like crowd interaction and stage presence is almost something that you have to practice just as much as the song itself, right?
Yeah, and it's something with this band that I think we focus on way more compared to other bands I've ever been in.
Wow. Do you thrive off of crowd interaction? Like, are you doing what a lot of the hardcore bands do, like opening up the pits and having the crowd surfing and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, any crowd interaction for me at all is just badass. As soon as I start seeing people into it, it just makes me way more into it.
Yeah, crowd feeds off the band and the band feeds off the crowd.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as soon as you see one person just start going off, and then everyone starts going off, and it's just there's really no explainable feeling of that. It's just incredible.
Definitely. And the final question I wanted to ask you is coming from Michigan, home of the Black Dahlia murder, home of Walls of Jericho, home of so many amazing bands. I'd imagine that there is still very much so an active scene for hardcore and metal and punk and everything else out there, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, hardcore is really big here. I mean, Cold as Life, and one of the big bands here right now is Never Ending Game. I played in two hardcore bands from here, Build and Destroy and Razzle Dazzle, and but yeah, it's big. I mean, Michigan is really thrives in music. It always has. It's just always been a pretty strong scene.
Yeah, do you like play mostly in Detroit, or is there kind of like scenes in other areas of Michigan that you guys tend to tackle?
Detroit is really the main one. Grand Rapids is another one that is decent, and Lansing is pretty good too. But Detroit is like the one to go to. And there's this other spot, one of the newer like main venues called the Sanctuary that's in Hamtramck, but I mean it's still like basically Detroit. But that's like the main spot a lot of bands are playing now.
Yeah. I heard King 810 actually made Flint a pretty happening spot too for hardcore and punk.
Oh, dude, when they came out, I mean, I remember when they came out, that shit was like the craziest shit anyone ever saw.
Like their shows are like you gotta
There's
hold
a
on for dear life.
there's a show, a video that's what like made them go viral. Where I want to say they were playing this place called the Modern Exchange, which was like this old venue, and kids were literally destroying it. I mean, just straight up destroying this place.
Wow, like
Yeah, I
an
mean,
indoor riot.
yeah, they used to just have the craziest shit happen. Venues wouldn't let them play. I mean, they there was a while there where literally no one would book them because they knew it was going to get so fucking crazy.
Yeah, I've noticed it's bands from Michigan and bands from eOne. They pack the most. They pack the most crazy shows.
Oh yeah,
I
well
remember
that's good.
I remember seeing I Am, your label mates, play with Ingested, and I went out to have a cigarette, and I heard like one of the people who worked at the venue going, "Dude, the wall's missing." I'm like, "Excuse me, how does the wall go missing? The wall doesn't just go missing like that."
Yeah, right. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Just obviously, thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named. Obviously, shows aren't happening at the moment, but I'd imagine, with the new album coming out fairly soon, when all this is over, we'll be seeing you guys on the road quite a bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Hopefully sooner than later, because who knows at this point, world's going crazy.
yeah, definitely. Well, the world needs your music more than ever right now.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah, I think what bands need to do is have gigs on the street, like a lot of neighborhood kids how they used to play baseball, where if a car's coming, you have to like split everything up. So like every time a car's coming, wall of death.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I feel like there'll be some type of, especially when shows come back, it's going to be something similar to that, where everyone's going to be very spaced apart, and so many distance away from the stage. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I do know though when all this is over and we can start going to shows again and things start happening more frequently, we will enter the best era of music of all
Oh
time.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's gonna be insane. That's what really keeps me sane about it. I'm just like, man, when it comes back, it's gonna be crazy.
Oh, 100%. What I'm hoping is that they make a festival of all the canceled metal and rock tours, just one big festival.
Man, it's gonna be hard. Whenever this becomes okay, that first month to book a tour, holy shit, it's gonna be fucking wild.
Sorry, we have 3 shows in one day here.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be just so many bands just chomping at the bit, you know.
Yeah. Is there any venues in your hometown that you want to shout out to, like any DIY venues that maybe people could support during this time as well?
Oh, the Sanctuary for sure. That's the best spot to go to. Max is a great dude. I've known him for quite a long time. He's had quite a journey to where he's where his first venue was to where he's at now. I mean, they're the spot that's pretty much getting most of the bigger shows, and it's ran by a dude who's been in the scene, so it's just perfect for shows. You know, there's no bullshit. It's an awesome spot.
The St. Vitus of Michigan. I love it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Eric of Plague Year, Circle of Darkness. Be sure to pick that up. Coming very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.